All right, welcome back, everybody, to this week's episode of Leadership Ready Room Chats. I'm Brandon Jenks Jenkins here with my co host, Tom Brother Murray. And this week's topic is what you believe in versus maybe what is right for you in the moment right now, given your current context, right? What kept coming up for Tom and I in our last discussion was just this idea that there's a tension between a passion you feel, a direction that you want to go sometimes, and actually having the resources, the bandwidth to handle it right now, the money, the headspace. And the idea that it doesn't mean that it's wrong, right? It doesn't mean that that passion will never happen or it's the wrong thing or that you don't care. It just means that real life gets a vote and context always matters, which we have brought up, I think, several times in all of these episodes. So, um, I guess I'll pause right there, Tom. What's coming up for you, brother?
I think over the last few weeks, we have done a good job of slowly, not slowly, deliberately naming these thoughts and talking through them. And so, clarity right before you hit record, clarity is the word that you shared. So, credit to you. This idea that these things are in tension or conflict, as you shared, is real. And I think when you're talking about big enough things, the competition or the tension can be with other significant parts of your life, whether they're time or money or family or other business commitments or places that you spend energy. Um, and I struggled to wrap my head around, hey, this is important to me. Why does it feel heavy? Why is it hard to carry at the moment? And a few weeks ago, I kind of attributed it to some sense of some sort of failure. And the deliberate work that we have done, you and I, has given me the clarity, back to your word, that, hey, we can't carry everything. And it's kind of fascinating. This particular, today's discussion, today's chat, ties up a lot of things or refers back to a lot of the other things. I mean, you just said context always matters. Um, Maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago, we talked about not feeling the need to carry everything alone. There's so much overlap between a lot of the other things we've discussed. And I think right now we're trying to carry a couple of important things, too many maybe, important things at once. And they're all good. They're all good things. But maybe not all good right now. And so, yeah, it feels good to kind of see that tension for what it is, and also be willing to change, not change priorities, but truly prioritize other things, right? I think I shared last week, I'm reading the book, The One Thing, and great read, but this is also not a book review. I think one of the areas I'm struggling right now is not enough results in multiple areas of my life. And so our conversation plus the book I'm reading points me toward this idea of, all right, if I'm not achieving enough in three different areas, maybe I should focus on one of them. Right. I just finished the chapter where there's a long discussion about multitasking, essentially debunking this idea that we as human beings can multitask in any meaningful way. Uh, it's all very topical and timely, and um, yeah, it's a trap. It's easy to fall into that trap. Yeah. How's that landed for you?
Yeah, man. It's like you can be passionate about more than one thing. We have many passions. Um, and so you have to have a way, I think, to be able to kind of discern what, based on your context, based on what's going on in your life, which of those passions are front and center, and which of them maybe are things that you still continue to pursue to a lesser degree. Which of them are things that you have to kind of turn away from them right now just because of whatever's going on in your life. I think it's that discernment. Um, and it's for me, it's how do you know? Like, hey, Jenks, how do you know when something might still be right, um, but not right for this time of your life or what's going on? And I'll give you like one or two things, and then I'll kick that question over to you, brother. For me, there's still you feel an energy towards it. Like it's not that thing that you love to pursue is draining and feels like 100% an obligation. There may be pieces of it that are because again of the context of your life, but are you still energized by the vision of it? Do you still find yourself thinking, man, what could this become? As it relates to whatever that passion is, whatever that thing is. And I'd say if the answer is yes to that, then it very well could still be the right thing. Like that's how I'm looking at it. This, very well could be the right thing. Just might not be right now. And how do I know that? It's other things going on in my life. What are my family demands right now? What are the other relationship demands right now? Um, Financially, what are the financial resources that I can put towards this other thing right now? While I'm still needing to put it towards other things, my time, my attention, my energy, right? So I have to consider all of those things in addition to the passion or whatever it is that I think is right, but maybe not right now. So that's kind of some of the things that come up for me. Like, how do you know, brother, when it could still be right, just not this time?
For me, Brandon, that it's that I'll echo your thoughts that if it's something that energizes me, that I'm passionate about, my instinct is to go after it. And for me, when it starts to feel heavy or when I feel like I'm failing in other very important parts of my life, failing's too strong of a word, but not where I would like to be, that's when I think you need to say, you need to kind of re-examine, or I need to re-examine. And fortunately, I've got people in my life like you with whom I can have these conversations. Because I think for a lot of folks, that's what's missing is you walk the road alone, you're energized by multiple things, passionate about multiple things, feel some sense of obligation. And you essentially, for me, it feels like spreading myself too thin. And then I wind up with mediocre results in multiple important areas of my life. And honestly, it's taken me, I turned 45 soon. It's taken me until now to really be able to dive into these thoughts in a meaningful way. Um, because I think, you said it already. We've talked about the idea of context matters. Well, I fall into this trap of I used to be able to, so I must be able to now. I think back to time in the Navy where the operational tempo of the unit was bonkers, right? You're just always gone. You're always running hard. We had little kids at the time. And yet, we were also building a real estate investment portfolio and several other competing priorities. Well, how did we do it? Well, I think it's easy to say, yeah, we had young kids, so life was hard, but it's hard in a different way. The Navy's busy, but there's a huge structure. When my kids were young, it was hard because they cried a lot, but I didn't have to drive them 700 miles a week to different things, right? So the context changes. Uh, and I think that's lost on me when I quickly think through, these areas where I'm getting mediocre results. And so, yeah, having somebody like you, having a friend, having a coach, in our case, a friend that with whom I can share these thoughts allows me to get to clarity. But That's the long answer. The short answer is things start to feel heavy and the results aren't there. I think for me, a lot of this comes back to true prioritization, right? If I can only be successful at one thing right now, what's it going to be? If I have bandwidth left over after that, what's number two? And I've been taking for many years, a parallel path, trying to do three things, four things, five at once. And now I'm going to try to be intentional about a little more sequencing, right? If we can only get to number one, well, we'll get to the right number one. If we can only get to two, we'll get to the right two things. And so that's my challenge to myself going forward. What about you? Now that we've kind of described how it feels or how do we know, what's your forward looking approach?
Oh man, so much of what you said like resonated, dude, because there's probably multiple things in my life where there's some hard decisions that need to be made, things that I care about, things that I believe in, things that are very much aligned with what I see as my purpose, things that are passions of mine. I'm also like, there's this, you ever hear of a multiplier mind? My coach and I actually talk about it a little bit, right? It's a multiplier mind. Some folks, they just like to have a lot of things going on at once. Like they have a lot of passions. They have a lot of ideas. And they can take all those ideas and envision something even bigger with them. Right. And back to your point 5 minutes ago about multitasking, and the science is pretty clear. I spent some time, not only just reading books, but I spent some time as a college professor, and I worked with some brilliant PhDs, and I was exposed to some of the science that says we don't multitask. We're not doing multiple things at once. We are prioritizing and we're switching tasks. Now, again, I am not the expert on that, but essentially that is what I learned over the last few years that really just validates some of the stuff we read. And like Tom, you were saying, man, you're reading it right now. Multiplier minds like very easily get into the paradigm that they can do multiple things at once. They are multitasking. And I think I fall into that. Like just from a self-awareness perspective, I think that I fall into that. And so, okay, so now what do I do? I have something that I've done in my life that's very powerful is I revealed my blueprint. And so I took the time with a coach that I work with and just got very clear about what are my values, passions, what's my purpose. And my understanding of that evolves over time. However, what I have is what most of us, like, it's floating around in our heads. I have it on paper. I have it on a poster behind me right now. If you're watching this, I have a way to kind of look at things that are really important to me internally. I can look at them, and then in the context of my life, what's going on, what external things are asking for my time and requiring my attention. And I can kind of start to see like, well, what players are involved here, in order to do this, like what am I going to have to let go of here? So that helps me tremendously. And it's something that periodically I've got to kind of like intentionally redo some things with it, like tag some things out and do some reflecting with it, because just like anything else, if you don't use it, if you're not intentional with it, it's kind of there, but maybe you're not getting all the benefit out of it. And so when I'm facing things like this, that's something that I will do, is just, and if you don't have something like that, it's like take some time to jot down, like, what are some values of yours? What are non-negotiables right now in your life? You know, some easy ones that come to the top of my mind because I'm a parent and a husband, right? It's like being a good spouse, being a good dad. Those are some values right now of mine that are like, yeah, those are up there. And so then when I'm looking at what else is going on in my life, if I start to see that in order to focus on these two things, spouse and dad go down the list, take a hit. Okay, well, that's a signal for me to think about it again. And you, listener, you may have some other values that are super important to you. Maybe you're not a dad. Maybe your kids are out of the house, right? Like, again, context always matters. So I think it's important to maybe jot some of those things down. Maybe take inventory of one or two of your passions. Like, jot some of this stuff down so that you can kind of look at it. I have found that helps me. Again, back to my time at the college, there's evidence that is actually very scientifically beneficial for you to do. So yeah, those are some things for me, brother.
Uh, I- as you're sharing that, I had this thought, or a thought occurred to me that I've read before, and it's this idea that when we're saying yes to something, it's tying into multitasking. If we're saying yes to something, we're saying no to something else, and it doesn't have to be this big, sophisticated thing. Saying yes to waking up is saying no to sleep, right? It can be that simple. When we're talking about big things, things that occupy large amounts of time, take a lot of brain power or bandwidth, we're necessarily shutting something else out or reducing the time and energy we're giving to something else. And the challenge that I think the way I'm framing it to myself is, just because we can do something, just because I can do something, doesn't mean I should right now, right? You talked about that earlier. And that's been a theme for me this year. So uh, I think I was applying it very surgically to my life earlier in the year. And I think my challenge to myself is to apply that more broadly. Just because I can doesn't mean I should. Is this because seasons change, context changes, and we kind of have to roll with that. Um, yeah, I mean, you talked about the work you've done with your coach, and I'm writing down a non-negotiable list. That's something that we've started at home. These are the non-negotiables, and I think the idea is it'll help us as a family stay aligned and um, remember what's important to us now. It can change. It will change. Because I don't think the goal has to necessarily be to do more things, despite what so much of social media tells us. Um, it's okay to tune that out, I think. So when what do you have decision criteria, a decision theory that you use, or that you're trying to use when you figure out what gets your attention?
Not as cut and dry as maybe you would think, or maybe the listeners would hope for. I don't have an exact criteria because I like to allow space for things to change and space for how am I feeling about it, as I'm thinking through something. My my emotions don't get all the vote, but I know for a fact that our bodies and our emotions are giving us clues to things. And so it's not about being led by them. It's about noticing what's going on, how I'm feeling about something, and tuning into that and like factoring that in. And so because of that, there's times when on paper it may look like you should go this way, and I'm saying yes, but this way also all makes sense. Maybe not as strong, but I'm feeling a pull that way. You know what I mean? So I give myself a little grace with that. I try to tune into where's the energy. Like I try to do the calendar trick. I don't know if we've talked about this before, and it's not really a trick, but it's like if you look at your calendar and you look at what's on it for just the next week, maybe 2 weeks, and just like flag some things on there that how are they making you feel? Like if you flag and like, for example, flag the things on there where you're just like, ugh, I don't feel like doing that. I just don't. I got to figure out a way to cancel that. And I'm not saying cancel it or don't do anything with it, because the first step is that awareness piece. just flag it. All the things on your calendar for the next 2 weeks where you're like, I really don't want to be doing that. I'm only doing it because my boss told me to, or, a friend asked me to, and I felt bad about saying no, or I thought I wanted to have that meeting and now I see it on the calendar. I'm not even sure what the heck that's going to be all about. Like, right. And just flag those things. And I think that if I had to recommend a simple way for someone to start at least tuning in and being aware of some of the things where maybe it's at this time in their life, it might be a good idea to cut it out. Doesn't mean it's wrong. Again, back to the beginning, right? Doesn't mean it's wrong. Doesn't mean you don't love it. Doesn't mean you don't believe in it. However, there's something about it right now in your life you're looking at it on the calendar and you're thinking, I don't really want to do that. That's probably the simplest way I would recommend somebody just start to gain some awareness about what maybe some of those things in your life right now are that maybe at this time they're not right. And beyond the awareness, then you do have to start factoring in, okay, is this, and we've had an episode on this, brother. Are we just like, am I just uncomfortable because it's new and it's growth? And maybe it does lead to exactly what I'm supposed to be doing right now. However, I've never done it before. And so it's like, I got to grind through it a little bit to get to the other side. That takes a little bit of discernment, right? So, but the first step is just the awareness of how these things in your life that you got going on right now, what they're doing to you, energy wise, emotionally wise.
I'm going to try the calendar trick.
Yeah. Quick.
As
Yeah.
you said that, I'm picturing certain things that are on my calendar that I do have strong feelings about one way or another. Yeah, Brandon, I've done a poor job of reading the signals that my emotions are trying to communicate to me. Until, I mean, I'm only just aware of the connection, which is, in some ways embarrassing to admit, and I'll do it anyway. Geez, I should have figured this out years ago. Um, but just this week, I finally felt like I had some clarity around that, where I was spending time with my kids. I'd had some frustrating events in the office earlier in the day. I was spending time with my kids in the afternoon playing baseball. And I was not, I mean, typically that's my happy place. I'm on a baseball field with my kids. It's a beautiful day. We're having a catch. I'm hitting them ground balls. And I was not experiencing it the way that I expected to and that I wanted to. And normally I would have written it off, but I kind of dwelled on it and tied it back to the work frustrations. And um, I'm so thankful that I'm starting to make those connections. Yeah, I wish it happened sooner, but lots of good stuff to come. And a lot of that has to do, Brandon, with our time together, with these conversations. These aren't, for the listener, this is not, this isn't scripted. This is just really what's top of mind for us, and the conversations we have are wonderful. So, um, when I think about trying to be more intentional in the future, it comes back to boundaries in so many ways, right? Because I think that's how, in many cases, I wind up in situations where I've taken on too much, right? That idea of I can, so I should, it's boundary setting. It's understanding limits. It's something that I'm sure many people struggle with. And some days I feel like I'm leading the pack. Um, so I'll flip it back to you. What would you tell yourself? And if you want to take it a different direction, go for it. What would you tell yourself 18 months ago, 24 months ago? Knowing, having now talked about so much of this stuff together. Is there anything you'd go back and share with yourself 2 years ago?
Mm, dude, before I answer that, man, there's something you said, because that's a great question. But I wanted to kind of double click on two things with the emotions piece. One, dude, it is our culture. And especially you and I, we grew up in, went to the Naval Academy and then did 20 plus years active duty, naval aviation. I don't know how many times in my career I heard like you've got to be able to compartmentalize. You've got to be able to take that negative thing that's going on in your life that maybe you are feeling some crazy emotions and you've got to be able to set those over here on the shelf. Put those to the side and just push through and focus on the mission. Focus on what you're doing. Dude, we were steeped in that for decades. For decades. It's like the air you breathe. Like you don't even see it. You just breathe it. And then when you don't have it, you're like, oh, suffocating. Like it's just, so the one thing is that, and decades of that. And then it's probably decades plus to actually learn that those emotions are clues. Your body, beyond just normal aging, dude, I believe that your body is trying to tell you things. Because your body, your brain, it senses what's going on in your environment way before you even realize it. So that's one thing. The other thing is those clues, you may be feeling in doing something and feeling weird about it and feeling, so that emotion might have nothing to do with actually what you're in the middle of doing. It's a clue, and it could be cluing you in on something else going on in your life that shouldn't be there, or that's causing the emotion. So I wholeheartedly believe that. And dude, just like you, man, this is a work in progress, and it's continuous for me, and it's hard to do because why? I'll go back to that again. Decades, 20 in the military. But I mean, I played sports growing up, probably 30, 40 years of that. So that doesn't just get rewired overnight. It takes a lot of intention, awareness, recognizing that. I would say what would I tell myself 24 months ago, man? And this, and then I'll kick it back to you. And I think that might be it. I'll keep this concise. I would say tune into those clues earlier, like from the beginning, really tune into that. And before you take on another passion project, like something that you're like, God, I love this, I believe in it. Before you take that on, do some of the things we've been talking about today. Like, look at the calendar first. What's already on the calendar that's like giving you the, oh no, maybe start with cutting that. If if it's something you can cut, depending on your situation, maybe start there before adding a whole new like passion project on top of it. That's probably what I would tell myself 2 years ago, 18 to 24 months ago. And probably what I would tell somebody I was mentoring. Same thing. Just, hey, be sure about that, man. Is it, yeah, might be the right thing. Is it the right time?
Despite the fact that I knew you were going to flip it back to me for the same question, I don't have much to add to your answer. I love your answer. I come back to finding purpose, to not overscheduling, and to self-care, whatever that means to you. Because I do think it means different things to different people. I think some combination of that will hopefully would have allowed me to maybe more quickly come up with the right priorities over the last couple of years. And you know what? There's also some goodness to learning it the way I did, because that's what it took to get through to me. So, Brandon, as always, I thoroughly enjoyed this one. I'll let you take us home.
Yeah, me too, brother. Dude, right at the end of the day, it's like you gotta be honest and intentional about what you can support, like what your life can handle right now, right? Because that context always matters. Doesn't mean stop dreaming. doesn't doesn't mean follow those passions. Just means be a little bit more intentional with it. And remember, like, you know, who's making up all these timelines? Who's the one saying you got to get this done in the next 3 to 6 months? This specific thing, right? So a lot of times that's us making up our own timelines, depending on context, right? Again, context always matters. That's probably another big foot stomper, big double click topic. So, Yeah, with that, had a blast, brother, as always, and looking forward to the next conversation. For everyone listening, thank you. Whether you joined us live, whether you're listening to the recording of this, if it resonates, feel free to reach out to Tom, reach out to me. We'd love to continue the conversation. And we'll see you next time on Leadership Ready Room Chats.